It was a dark and stormy night in October 2019, just the kind of night when people rarely dared to travel alone. But in the bustling city of Mumbai, one taxi driver got a call. It was 1 a.m. and there was a lone passenger waiting for him on a deserted street. In a few moments, he would pick up this mysterious rider. But by the time the clock struck 1:12 a.m., his passenger had vanished into thin air. The worst part, he disappeared without paying, and not just that, he left a cryptic note for the driver, a note with the driver's name on it, and it was stained with what appeared to be blood. What exactly did the note say, and what happened to the passenger? Did he even exist? Well, buckle up because we're about to take a wild ride down the rabbit hole of conspiracy theories. Welcome to our channel, your destination for the most intriguing crimes and suspicious deaths. Before we get started, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. Also, let us know in the comment section below if you think the passenger was real or a figment of the driver's imagination. Now let's meet the protagonist of our story tonight, a taxi driver named Ravindra Joshi, a 42-year-old man whose life revolved around the streets of Mumbai. His nights were spent driving his taxi, ferrying passengers who often became the only human contact he had for hours on end. His shift began after the sun dipped below the horizon and the city came alive with neon lights and distant music. One such night was October 2019. Unlike other nights though, Ravindra found himself waiting longer than usual for his first customer. It wasn't unusual to pick up a late night passenger around Dada Station, a place buzzing with activity even at odd hours. But tonight the station's energy seemed to have taken a break. The usually bustling taxi stand was unusually empty. The minutes ticked by, each one echoing the silence of the empty road. Ravindra watched as cars whizzed past, carrying their precious cargo of late-night revelers. Yet he sat still, a beacon of patience in the sea of rushing vehicles. After more than an hour of waiting, just as he was beginning to lose hope for the night, a light appeared in the distance. A lone figure running, trying to hail a cab, desperately seeking a ride home. It was a man dressed in a black raincoat, his face hidden under its collar. His footsteps were hurried, his movements desperate, almost as if he were running from something. Ravindra watched as the man approached his taxi. There was a sense of urgency in his demeanor that made Ravindra's instincts tingle. This was no ordinary passenger. As the man opened the back door, he turned to Ravindra, revealing a face that was pale and drawn, his eyes wide and searching. Without a word, he gestured forward, signaling Ravindra to start the engine and drive. The taxi driver looked at the man, then at the desolate road ahead. He knew he shouldn't take the passenger anywhere. Isolated, empty roads were notorious for being dangerous, especially at such a late hour. But the man's urgency was palpable, and Ravindra found himself unable to refuse. He started the engine and turned on the headlights, cutting through the darkness like beams of truth. As they drove, the man remained silent, his gaze fixed out of the window, lost in the darkness of his own thoughts. Ravindra tried to make conversation, anything to fill the heavy silence, but the man didn't respond. He just kept staring into the gloom. Ravindra felt a chill, a strange coldness that had nothing to do with the rain-soaked Mumbai night. The silence was deafening, amplifying every little sound, every rustle of leaves, every hoot of a passing car. After a while, the man turned to Ravindra and pointed left. They were approaching a dark, rundown area known to locals but rarely visited by anyone, let alone a taxi driver. The narrow lanes were like fingers pointing accusingly at the darkness above. The man gestured again, urging Ravindra to stop. The taxi screeched to a halt, its headlights momentarily blinding Ravindra. He turned to the man, confusion etched on his face. The man had disappeared. In the blink of an eye, Ravindra looked back at the road. Had he imagined it? Was he losing his mind? He could have sworn that just a moment ago a man had been sitting in his back seat. Now there was no one. In fact, there was not even a sign that anyone had ever been there. Ravindra got out of the car, his heart pounding against his ribs, his mind racing with possibilities. He searched the area, calling out for the man, but there was no answer. Only the echo of his own voice mocked him back. But what really unsettled him was what he found on the back seat where the man had been sitting. Folded on the seat was a piece of paper, and it was soaked with what looked like blood. With trembling hands, Ravindra unfolded it and his blood ran cold. The paper read, "Ravindra Joshi, you were the last." His mind reeled. Was this a threat? Was the man who had vanished a dangerous criminal, or was it some sick prank? Panic clawed at his throat. His hands shook. His mind raced. Fear, cold and paralyzing, gripped him. The silence of the night was deafening now, amplifying the thud of his own heartbeat. Ravindra was a man of logic. He needed answers, and the only way he could find them was to call the police. With shaking hands, he dialed 100. The familiar ringtone echoed in his ear, each ring reverberating the panic in his chest. When the operator finally picked up, his voice was hoarse, betraying his fear. When the police arrived, Ravindra's fear began to recede, replaced by a fragile sense of security. The officers listened patiently as he recounted the events of the night, his voice catching on the chilling message. The cops looked at each other, a silent exchange passing between them. They had heard enough of these stories to be cautious, but what made this case different was the eerie message. It added a layer of mystery that made the hair on their necks stand on end. CCTV footage showed Ravindra's car stopping, but no one entering or exiting it. It was as if the passenger and his disappearance had been conjured out of thin air. But there was something the cameras had missed, something Ravindra had noticed too late. Later, when the autopsy lab confirmed that the blood wasn't Ravindra's, his hopes of a simple explanation vanished. It was a cold case from 1997, a missing persons report. The victim was unidentified, his name a mere statistic in a long line of unresolved cases. Suddenly, Ravindra found himself at the center of a mystery that was 2 decades old. Why was he chosen? What did the message mean? Was the passenger real or a figment of his imagination? As days turned into nights and the media frenzy died down, Ravindra's life began to unravel. The police reopened the 1997 case, hoping to find answers in the cold files of the past. Every lead was a dead end. Every witness had a flimsy alibi. The investigation hit a wall. Then came the breakthrough. A fingerprint on the backseat window, a match to a missing person from 1997. The passenger had been identified, but his story was buried under layers of deceit and corruption. The man in the cab was 𝐕𝐝𝐞𝐞, a journalist who had vanished while investigating illegal organ trade in the 90s. His investigation had led him close to a powerful figure in the city's underworld, someone who was also well connected to the police. Files were sealed, witnesses went missing, and the case grew cold. For Ravindra, the discovery brought more questions than answers. Why was 𝐕𝐝𝐞𝐞 in his cab? Was he seeking a ride, or was he being followed? And why leave a cryptic note if he planned to disappear? It seemed impossible. So Ravindra thought he must have picked up 2 men that night, one who entered his cab and another who stayed in the back. But then came the twist that turned the case on his head. Ravindra realized he had driven 𝐕𝐝𝐞𝐞 before, but not in 1997. He was a new driver then. Had it been a setup? Was 𝐕𝐝𝐞𝐞 trailing him, studying his habits, waiting for the right moment to make his move? This realization sent chills down his spine. If 𝐕𝐝𝐞𝐞 had been following him, what did it mean for him now? 1 week later, a chilling note appeared on Ravindra's doorstep. It simply said, "You're next. Tell their story. Who was there? Was it the missing persons from the 1997 case? Was the passenger not a ghost from the past, but a harbinger of the future? Was Ravindra the next target?" 2 weeks later, Ravindra vanished. His taxi was found abandoned on the same street where he picked up the mysterious passenger. Inside the car, there was a camera memory card. When inserted into a computer, it revealed a shocking secret. The footage showed several other drivers, all of whom were reported missing and all connected to the 1997 case. They were shown entering the cabs but never exiting. And then there was Ravindra, his face pale and drawn, his eyes wide with fear, looking directly into the camera. A shadowy figure loomed behind him, his face obscured, a knife glinting in his hand. "Truth is a passenger," he whispered. "Most drivers never survive the ride." And with that, the screen went dark. That's all for today's video. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure to subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments below. We'll see you next time.